I'm going home, oh yes. I'm going home, oh yes. I'm going home, Lord, Lord. I'm going home. I'm going home, Lord, Lord. I'm going home. My baby's good.
In the 1840s, home for these men and women was Lexington, Kentucky, far away from the African homeland of their ancestors, who were captured, stripped of their freedom, and sent across an ocean to a life of slavery. This is the story of one such slave who fled bondage from Ashland, the estate of Senator Henry Clay in Lexington, Kentucky. Escaping the clutches of slavery was a terrifying and grueling ordeal. Every step tracked by slave catchers who were employed to pursue and return escaped slaves to their enslavers. This is also the story of the brave men and women in small towns that dotted the map between slavery and Canada, who risked imprisonment and fines to make the trek possible. Unfortunately, as with most slaves of the period, we don't even know his name. But we do know one place he stayed along the Underground Railroad on his way home. Not to Africa, but to a life of freedom in Canada.
I'm going home.
Fleeing slavery wasn't simply about having the freedom to make choices. It was about escaping brutality and violence and the dehumanization of being bought and sold, making family separation a constant threat.
Enslavers regarded them as if they were livestock, animals, to be trained up and used and disposed of. And violence is one way, whether it's physical violence, emotional violence, all sorts of other types of manipulation to try and force this relationship.
They also lived, the females, women and girls, under the constant threat of sexual exploitation that never went away. They could be sexually exploited at any time by any number of people. They lived under constant threat of separation from family members.
We know about the vicious beatings, we know about the sexual assaults, but I do think the more insidious ways of dehumanizing the enslaved are the things that are sometimes embedded. Thomas Jefferson wrote that the reason that Africans look the way they do, and he describes the darkening of the skin and the prognathsis, meaning that the jaw juts out and the flat, broad noses. I mean, essentially a face like mine, that we look this way because African women chose to mate with orangutans rather than African men. And yet he's writing this knowing the kind of racial fiction that was.
In the 1740s, slavery existed in every North American colony. But by 1804, after the 13 colonies had become states and 4 more were added, 9 of them in the North had abolished the institution. The South, however, relied heavily on slavery as a labor force that could produce large cash crops like cotton, tobacco, and rice. In addition, slavery was deeply embedded in the social structure of the South.
The South becomes a slave society. The North originally is a society with slaves. And so it eventually kind of dies out, largely because it's not necessarily the most economically viable labor system.
The entire U.S. economic system was completely dependent upon the plantation system of the Deep South. Northern financiers, merchants, bankers, et cetera, factory owners were dependent on the cotton plantations.
We are really talking about a system that is globally profitable. Cotton, rice, sugar, tobacco, these were crops raised in plantations to be sold in the world market. Southern-grown, slave-grown cotton was fueling industrial revolution in Britain. The textile industries in Manchester and Lancaster. their main supply was slave-grown cotton from the South. And this cotton was the largest item of export from the United States, and its value exceeded all other items of export until the Civil War. So we are seeing a very profitable system that was fueling not only Southern economic growth, but also national economic growth. You had cotton textile mills in New England, northern agricultural and manufacturing concerns that supplied the South. So the traditional view that somehow the South and North clashed over differing economic systems is simply incorrect. It was a very complementary relationship. It fueled shipping, insurance, industry, including Wall Street.